Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of THRIVEcast. I'm your host, DJ Eshelman, and if you are looking for great stories about great people in information technology, then good news, you are in the right place. Let's bring on my co-host, Jeff Pitch. And I gotta hit the button right, little things, just
It,
little details,
it,
right?
again, every week it's got to be something.
It's gotta be
So
something, right?
let's do it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody as I
Yeah.
go into my radio voice here.
Yeah, I mean that's the nice thing about broadcasting across the world to multiple different streams. We've got people on YouTube, we've got people on Facebook, we've got people on Twitch today. So
Woo!
yeah, it's all fun. So reach around the world, so you never know when people are going to be viewing or where it is in their time zone. So whatever
The,
time of
the
day it
wonderful
is,
thing
welcome.
about it is that it's 12 o'clock somewhere. So if we really wanted to
Isn't it five
be
o'clock
drinking,
somewhere? Isn't
it's
that the
11
name of the?
o'clock my time, but you know, I'm good.
I'm still working through my coffee this morning. I don't know.
It's
I suppose
never
I
too
could put a little
early.
something in there, really, but that's just not right. So awesome. Well, joining us today is actually one of my favorite people. I gotta confess this up front. Is that I'll have to figure out when Esther Barthel and I first met, but she's always been so welcoming and joyful, and just one of those people that I feel very blessed to know. So let's bring her on all the way from across the pond and then some.
Where
Esther,
it's
welcome
5
to
p.m.
Thrivecast. All right,
So,
it
so
is
I
five
need to
o'clock
switch
somewhere.
my
I knew it.
drink.
See?
So Esther, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you're up to these days, and we'll kind of dive into your story.
Uh, wow. Tell a little bit about yourself. I always get a bit nervous if the focus is on me,
Yep.
but I love to make an exception for you in this podcast because I know how much you reach an audience that can use some tips and advice and
Yeah.
is looking for personal growth as well. So I think, um, let's see. So where I am right now is that I'm not just focused on end user computing, but I'm also you finish your master's, you're expected basically to roll right into some cool job like project manager, for instance. I wonder why that was his first pick, but but I discovered that I had so much more fun getting my hands dirty first by building stuff. So I figured if you want to build a house, you need to know how to make bricks first. So my first job was basically building websites. And I was very proud to be one of those people that use Notepad as their HTML editor.
Nice.
And for my first job, I had to use FrontPage, which was like total disaster. I ended up using FrontPage and then opening all the HTML up in Notepad and cleaning it up. So all the FrontPage additional tags were gone again. And so that definitely started my career. And then I have this natural curiosity of always wanting to know what the impact is of what I build or what I create or what I design on the entire ecosystem. So I went from web development to, I did become a DBA for maybe 6 months. But then I became more of a server administrator or system administrator. And then I moved on to what is the impact on networking. So I did networking for a while. And at some point, I had a manager that was really happy about all my explorations. But he basically asked me to pick a topic to specialize in, because the generic parts were fun, but it was now time for me to basically grow up and become a specialist. And I had to take quite a little while to think about what I wanted to specialize in. And I was very fortunate that I had a project going on where we were implementing Citrix MetaFrame. And I figured if I told my manager that I wanted to specialize in Citrix, I would still have all the fun in the world with applications, with servers, with networking, even adding gateways in the mix. So I figured that would keep me quite busy with all the curiosity that I have and the need to learn new technologies and grow both technically and professionally. So yeah, that's basically why I ended up in the Citrix community with all my excitement about this technology and wanting to share that. And then even evolving in that with the whole automation adventures that I've been having these last couple of years. So that's a really quick history lesson on my life.
So when does the growing up happen? Because I haven't found that point yet.
Well, I think my girlfriend hopes that it happens soon, so the Lego phase is over. But no, I think I will probably always nurture that inner child, because for me, that also is a big part of the work hard, play hard motto, to be able to just be that kid again and just play around and not worry too much about all the responsibilities that an adult has to deal with.
Absolutely. So, it's funny. DJ and I have had conversations. There's something in the water in the Netherlands in regards to Citrix, RDS. In all seriousness, the Netherlands seem to have been way ahead of the rest of the world when it comes to remoting of some, whatever the case may be. The Dutch user group is huge, not connected with the CUG-C. It has been around for a very long time.
Correct.
When I came out there a couple of years ago, I think it was 2017, I was stunned at the amount of people at the event. And so what is it? What is it with the Dutch? I mean, it's great because, if you look at where a lot of the innovation comes from. It's from, you and others, out of the Netherlands. A lot of our stuff is based on what you all have accomplished. So I'm just curious, the rest of us have seen it. I'm just curious what you think, why that is.
Well, I think the Dutch have always been tradesmen or persons, and that's, I think, because we are such a tiny country. We have to adapt to whatever is popular and whatever is the currency in the world to exchange goods or to provide in a better living circumstances. And I think we discovered at the right moment that technology became a new currency, or knowledge on technology and technological revolutions became the new big thing that could really make you a presence on the world stage. And I think we also were very lucky that we invested a lot, but that's like talking about over 20 years ago, in education and making sure that we provided the opportunity for a lot of young people to get educated in the Netherlands. So I think if we're looking back at 20 years ago, we definitely had a big head start when it comes to technology and IT. But I do believe that we've kind of been slacking in the last couple of years. So you definitely have a chance to catch up and maybe even beat us to it. But yeah, the other thing probably is that we also are known for being a bit stubborn. So we want to have our own proof of what is the truth or what is the reality. So we don't just take anyone's word for it. We need to investigate ourselves and make sure that we have all the facts straight. So that already encourages a more scientific approach and of course, knowledge sharing.
Yes.
Very cool.
That's great. I think all of us can say we've touched upon something coming out of the Netherlands in our day-to-day EUC lives at one point or another. So it's always been great to see it. It's always been like that question in the back of my head. It's why? What is going on over there that has, you guys really have led the way in many respects with EUC, and it's been great. Absolutely great.
Yeah, I can understand that if people talk about the Dutch, then that little voice in the back of your head is going like, "You got brain, what we're going to do tomorrow?" And then you realize that it's going to be the Dutch taking over the world.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Slowly but surely, and so under the radar. It's ridiculous. We'll all be wearing orange soon. So
well, that would be fun too. It's not a bad color from what I understand.
Oh man, good stuff.
Definitely.
DJ, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Just fine. Working through a small issue with our live stream that I'm kind of working in the background here. So yeah,
Got
I
it.
apologize for that. So people can hear us, but for whatever reason, they can't see us. It's just stuck on this little awkward, like, maybe we should all just smile at the screen and maybe that'll be the thing that gets stuck. But I don't know. But the recording will be fine, obviously, and we'll repost the video when we're done here. So we'll just keep going.
Awesome.
So yeah. So apologies for anybody watching live, but if you're listening to the replay, this would obviously be a pretty awkward part of the conversation. But that's why.
Think of it as a podcast today.
Yeah, that really kind of is. It's like, yeah, that's what the new technology, the new world's all about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the part where I get worried, that you think that this is the moment where the Dutch are now supposed to share their knowledge and fix all the challenges that we have today.
Yeah, come on.
Oh my gosh. That is brilliant. I'm glad you brought that up. I hadn't thought about that, but so Esther, please go ahead, fix the world.
Well, I do believe that fixing the world can be done, but it has to be in like small steps. So just one person at a time to reach out to, and to just make a little difference in their lives, either by sharing technology or sharing enthusiasm or just giving them new inspiration. And I think that's already the first step to change the world.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that by now DJ has picked up the technical challenges.
No.
So, the way I figure the Dutch are taking over the world is through stroopwafels. I mean, that's just all there is to it.
Well,
I mean, come on. That's tough. I don't know. I mean, it has taken off at least through the EUC world.
Definitely.
Whenever somebody comes over, the first question always is, "Hi, do you have the stroopwafel?"
Correct.
The real deal too. It's like,
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I have to admit that at the beginning, especially getting into the CTP program with already so many cool Dutch role models in there, that I felt a bit awkward becoming the next stroopwafel promoter. Because I felt it was like this little signature thing that guys like Ruben Spruit, for instance, really introduced in the world. So it felt kind of, well, I'm not going to say cheesy, but it felt like too easy to just pick that up and just say, "Hey, Ruben, great idea, but now I'm going to run with it." So at first I was very reserved in you
didn't want to step on anyone's toes.
Yeah, enabling those habits.
Well, I figure it's like a drug habit, right? The first hit's free. You got to come to us for the rest. I see what's going on. So we're exposing. That's what today is, an expose, and we're exposing the Dutch.
Well, I'm just trying to slowly distance myself a little from Stroopwafelgate. Yes.
Stroopwafelgate.
I love
it. Because now you figured out what our secret plan in taking over the world is all about.
Yeah, but you don't understand. I am with the plan. I am so down with it.
Oh, this is just you asking me to send you over at least an entire case of stroopwafels.
Well,
just ask.
She's caught on to us, DJ.
It's possible. It's very possible. So, yeah, actually, it's funny how I've made that connection as well. And but for some reason, I was thinking about some of the people that have been mentored in the over there and kind of what you're doing. Maybe we just talk a little bit more about that whole process and how, because I know in the United States, for example, mentoring can mean a completely different thing than it does in a lot of other countries. So I'm kind of curious about what mentoring has meant to you, because I know, Esther, you do a lot of that in what you're doing. So maybe talk a little bit through that process about what people could expect from that, either from a young person or somebody who's along in their career already.
Well, so I can only speak about my own personal experiences, and growing up in the whole IT world, I was still searching on what my added value was, but also looking for my own role models. And being a woman, even though I do not like all those tags based on gender or other preferences, I did realize at some point that I had to find my own way and my own view on the world, and feel more comfortable just being me and not just copying the behavior of mostly guys that I saw around me. And I think, one of the things that I did at the beginning, and that's probably also why the first name that popped up in my head was Ruben's name, because he's the first person that I called just out of the blue when I wanted to figure out how to become more actively involved in the community, and how to also boost my own career to be able to be a bit more of an influence. So I just picked up the phone, called him, and just asked him some questions on how he became this role model. And I'm not even sure if he realized that that was the purpose of my call, but he definitely helped me by answering some questions that I had. And that's basically the first step in my whole community presence or building, or my community contributions. The other big influencer was Andrew Morgan, that I talked to at probably the last Citrix Synergy in Barcelona, where we talked about the CTP program and the community, and how Citrix also realized that they wanted to have a more diverse program and more diverse opportunities within IT. And I did consider joining the CTP program or applying for to become a CTP. But what really triggered me in making my first steps in a more mentoring role was that he just basically told me that I should be aware of the fact that being a woman in IT already, whether I liked it or not, made me a minority. But that could be a good thing, because he said that I definitely should consider the fact that I would become a role model, whether I liked it or not. And he said, well, if you want to become a CTP, you definitely have to answer that question for yourself. Are you ready to be a role model? And I think that's the first time that I really had to think about, and this is not bragging or ego, but what my impact would be on the community. So as of that moment, I became a lot more conscious of being a role model, and more conscious about the effects of my actions and my behavior on others.
Yeah, that's a great point, and something we don't always think about. And actually, I would confess that that's something that hit me as well at one point, of saying, oh, it's not just about me. It really is something where I have to be very cognizant of not only my actions, but kind of just how I carry myself. It's something we were talking to Joe Shank a few weeks ago about, learning that, there's subtle little things, and whether it's just how you carry yourself. I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'm literally now focusing so much on literally the position of my shoulders. Like if I'm like hunched over and I think, what does that say? But if I have my shoulders back, or I just kind of have just a natural poise, I'm finding that I used to think of that as cocky, but what I'm finding is people will approach me more. And so it's weird how these subtle little things make such a difference about being approachable and helping people out, as far as like, hearing them out and talking to them about the things they're going through and learning about them. And then, if necessary, give advice. And of course, we got to put up that Jen thinks that Esther is a great role model. And I agree.
Yeah, I was just reading that and going, oh, I'm going to go flustered again and become this shy person, because I do not handle compliments that well. Because for me, it just feels like this is a natural thing to do. So why should I get credits for something that feels like a natural thing to do? But thank you, Jen, for pointing that out.
And it's hard for me not to go into like, coach mode when I hear things like that. Really hard, because honestly, it's something that I've struggled with as a long time. But just trying to put that in perspective of, it's really hard to accept compliments sometimes. You don't want to feel like it's you're boosting yourself by taking the compliment. It's really hard sometimes, but honestly.
Yeah, and I
Sometimes.
think in the Netherlands, it's also part of how we are raised, where we are always told to just act normally and
Mm,
not make a big spectacle out of ourselves or draw attentions. So that's an inner struggle that I had to deal with myself, because it definitely encourages my insecure moments.
sure.
So one of the things that happened when I actually applied to the CTP and became or was awarded as a Citrix technology professional is that I spent the first year feeling very insecure because I wasn't sure if I really deserved that award. And it felt like I didn't share enough or didn't display enough that I had uh, the the technical baggage, or if I had all the expert questions and answers. So that definitely was a struggle for me in the beginning. And I think that also made me very conscious to battle this whole stigma of being that gender label.
Mhm.
Or just being that box that people tick off to say that they have a very diverse program. And one of the cool things that was an eye opener for me is that I was at this keynote, or basically, I walked into the keynote because I missed the first 5 minutes at a PowerShell conference where the presenter was talking about how happy he was to see much more diversity and
Mhm.
everything, well, especially after the whole feeling like a label episodes. The first instinct for me was to just stand up and shout and basically say that I got tired of women in tech being labeled and being so much picked out of the crowd, because
Mhm.
I'm just an IT enthusiasm that wants to share their knowledge and the fun
Right.
that IT brings. But I did manage to just stop myself right before I made a total embarrassment of myself. And then he went on by saying, well, all these different cultures and all these different programming or scripting backgrounds really gives you so much different viewpoints on solving a problem or a challenge.
Okay.
And then he just totally shut me up. And I was going like, yeah, that's one of the things that I keep forgetting, that diversity is not just about women in tech. It's
Mhm.
about just being yourself, or being able to just bring your own little quirkiness to the table and contribute in problem solving or
Mhm.
new designs or technological improvements.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
yeah, I'm more at ease now with the term women in tech, and yeah, that's fine. Diversity is cool.
yeah, yeah, and it's kind of weird. It's one of those things where if there's an obvious, lack, and it's one of those things where it's just like the way I've looked at it is that okay, you have we've never thrived in the IT world on one opinion of how to do things. It's never been that way. And so the more we encourage for, diversity of opinion, but also diversity of life, that actually we all end up benefiting. It can be frustrating at times, getting multiple
Mhm.
perspectives, like you're saying, it can be a frustration, but walking through that is what makes us all grow. We get better as people in IT, because of that. So but it is kind of, I can definitely see the awkwardness of that. And I've walked that myself of I don't want to think of anyone as different. I just want to think of everybody as people in IT. But at the same time, I definitely want to, there's never been a label like, that we've used anyway, like, oh, well, it's just men in IT, but the phrase IT guy, air fingers quote, IT guy goes around all the time. And it's just like
Yeah.
the IT community itself is trying to fight against something that, a lot of the rest of the world, it just like attaches a label to, and it's incredibly frustrating at times.
Yeah,
Sure.
but I think it's human nature that we want to put labels on things, because that makes it easier for us to put it in our own reference model that we have. So we know how to approach something, because we know which labels kind of helps us in picking the right posture or the right communication methods or words to start a conversation and to make a connection. So that's one of the things basically that I had to learn, that my reaction to diversity is mostly also based on my own reference model and my own experiences. And I cannot relate to other genders or other situations. Well, I can relate to them and can imagine how they must have felt, but I'll never have the exact same emotions attached to those examples. And it definitely helped me to also relax a bit more and not be immediately becoming this fighter, or just be very vocal about some rights, or just getting this anti-diversity movement going, where I'm just gonna say it's not a label, it's a shared enthusiasm. um, that also made me realize, no, it's okay, and you need to be more open and more willing to listen to another person explaining or sharing their experiences. And I think that's to go back to the first question that you said. I think that also triggered for me the need to build or to create a safe network for women in tech, because, well, that's the closest topic that I can relate to, and make sure that I encourage other women in tech to be more visible within the community, and to be open to find, to not just generalize that all IT men are our enemies, but to see that we have, well, Eva Helen opened up my eyes by saying there are different, like, stereotypes or different categories of sponsors, those opposing you, those helping you. And if you become more aware of the fact that it's not just those guys, but it's, well, maybe that one guy that ruins it for the rest of us, and to keep to stay open-minded about all the others that might want to help you, and that are sponsors out there, then I think that we're gonna have a great future working together and building more synergy than just trying to beat each other to the finish line, I was gonna say, but
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Is I think as soon as we start generalizing about a group, we're done. I mean, you see it here in the U.S., right? Left, right, the politics thing. It's all generalized. You know, you can't tell me that every person on the right believes the exact same thing. Same with the left. There's diversity in there, but so many people, you know, they just generalize the entire thing. You know, and you can look at the same thing with cultures and in countries and everything else, and you miss a lot. And you know, but it's in our nature to start doing that after a while, you know, and it's hard to break that habit. I think it's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, and we've said this before, I think that sometimes as males that are in IT, you know, it's tough for us to say, well, gosh, what do I say? What do I do? That sort of thing. It usually is very tough to know exactly what to do. There's been, you know, good and bad experience with that. I've let's just say I've laid the smack down once or twice on guys that were just being, well, we're gonna keep it clean on this show, but you can fill in
Yeah.
your own blanks as far as how I would describe these guys. And um, just I guess my response sometimes goes a little over the top. Just like that's completely inappropriate. That sort of thing is one thing to say, but I've actually gone so far as to bring out their own insecurities, which probably is not the best way to handle that. It doesn't really solidify a good feeling about embracing other people. And in this case, one case I'm thinking about is actually not somebody in IT that was bringing out somebody thinking about somebody else in IT. It was a project manager actually that was, saying he kept addressing me as the junior tech at the time, or like that's the role I was filling. On whether I was junior or not was not really the issue. It was more of that he kept addressing me and refusing to address the gal that was actually the lead on the project. And I pulled him aside and said, look, I'm not leading this project. She is. If you don't want to respect her, then we are probably going to end up leaving. And just kind of giving it to that degree is like, the way you're acting is not acceptable, and yeah, it's kind of awkward in those kind of situations. And again, I wasn't quite I didn't stop there, but I should have, but I didn't.
Well,
Now, see, you did it nicely and pulled him aside. I've come right out
Right.
during the meeting and just said, look, not me.
Yeah.
Her. She's leading. This is her project. I'm here to support whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I'm not the one you need to be talking to.
Right. Yeah. And that's the
No,
instinct.
but that's
right?
sometimes hard to do because there's this whole group dynamics that I've been guilty of as well, where you, especially being a consultant and going to new firms and new groups, and there's always this, I still call it like the alpha dog, but there's always this process where you need to figure out what your place is within the group. And I've made the mistake in the past too, to be too eagerly to want to be one of the guys. And well, in IT, the assumption is very easily made that to become one of the guys, you need to talk about women in a certain way. And for me, with a sexual preference, that became easy because being a lesbian made it very easy for me to talk about women in a certain way, until I had that moment coming home and looking in the mirror and going like, oh my God, I did talk so much trash about women. I basically talked trash about myself. What the hell are you doing? And that was like my first eye opener. Yeah. But then through our mentorship program and having these unconscious bias, like mini workshops, I discovered that there are also men that basically had similar experiences, where they were in that same group process, where everyone is basically talking in a certain way about women. And they were at that point where they had to make a decision. Do I either speak up, or do I stay one of the pack and just keep my place within the group? Yeah. And that made me realize that it's not just, especially for the mentorship program, it's not just women being able to advise each other, but we can also learn a lot about the men because they can relate to some of our experiences as well. So.
Yeah. And
yeah, honestly, it's easier to go along with the pack than it is to make it uncomfortable and speak up. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I still have those moments. Unfortunately, I have some very good friends that are very subtly pointing out to me that I'm not making the best choice in responding to certain situations.
Yeah.
Where they just do that.
Let me give some advice to our listeners here, and that is that there's two goals in a situation like this, because this happens in technology, especially. Well, I've had this happen in like the chat going on in a conference situation, but it's also happened in person at the live events and things like that. And you have to remember that there's two things that you're having instinct on. One is you want to change the tone of the conversation, that it's unacceptable, and two, you want to change the person's behavior. Now, one of those things is possible. The other one is not in a group setting. And you have to remember that you can change the dynamic of a conversation without bringing attention to what's going on. And that's the key, is to shift the tone of the conversation as much as you can. And I'm going to kind of put this up as a advice that I've learned over the years: praise in public, correct in private. Never correct in public. All that does is put somebody in a position where they are now either being defensive or feeling bad about it in the wrong kind of way. They don't correct their behavior at all. If they've been corrected in public, they will usually just hearken down and become worse, become jaded, become angry. They will not hear you. But if you correct in private instead, they're much more likely to not only respect you, but you're basically not getting everyone against them. And that's the instinct I see. And I've actually called this out a couple times on like Twitter and things like that, where people are just basically rallying against someone. And when it's me, I'll usually say, okay, I'm not going to respond to that, but I'll respond to you privately. It's like, are you aware that you're not just vocalizing an opinion here, you are actually rallying everyone against me and building yourself up in this process? Are you aware of this? That's what and a lot of times that's not their intention, but that's why you correct in private, not and just praise in public. Make sure that that's a positive experience. So that's something that actually works in consulting. It works in sales. It works in just life. So yeah, there's your tip for the day.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one of the things that I noticed as well. The minute you go into defensive mode, basically what you do is shutting down all systems and just focusing on the threat. So you're not open to listen anymore or to take in well-meant feedback. So yeah, good advice, DJ.
Well, thank you, Esther. I appreciate that praise. I'm sure if there's any.
Yeah, I figured I would just do that in public.
Yeah, exactly. We learned something
Wait till
today.
after the show.
I love it.
Oh,
well, Esther, let's talk a little bit about what's next for you.
So I think a lot of I don't know if everyone is aware of the fact that a couple of years ago I decided to become an independent contractor or freelancer after over 20 years being a technical consultant. So I've been loving that adventure, but I also noticed that it does make it a little bit more challenging to shift focus, because you are usually the one person show. So it's you do not have the strength to take on the challenging or the innovative projects. So a lot of times you are hired based on your resume and what you already accomplished. And in my case, as I mentioned before, I'm trying to shift from end user computing solutions, right, mostly Citrix focused, to more the DevOps play field or more cloud automation projects. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do that, but it does currently help that some of the presentations that I did in the past and the enthusiasm of sharing scripts and solutions is paying off by different customers now asking me to help them out. So I guess the world is finally becoming ready for the next big automated wave.
What we're trying to say here is the world is almost ready for Esther. Yeah, that's what we're trying to say.
Almost.
Yes, well, that's another huge challenge, of course, because I do realize that quirky little me.
Something that is a good point for people to hear, and probably for you to hear as well, is that if it's a challenge to feel like you're building yourself up or talking about your own accomplishments and things like that, one of the keys is found in some of the oldest practices you have your resumes, CVs, whatever descriptor there. There's something usually at the very end of those, and that's references. And if you can bring those more to the forefront, and because obviously, in technology, especially when you're an independent consultant, you have to sell yourself to some degree. It's a very uncomfortable thing, and getting through that is a very hard thing. But the more you can have others speak on your behalf, the better it is. So yeah, I think of some of the things you're doing with Control Up and things like that right now that are just, they're visible. It's just that the people that aren't in that ecosystem may not know about it, and so getting people in that ecosystem to talk about what you're doing is really crucially important these days, I think, especially if
Yeah, I used to call them my sponsors by basically explaining that I'm not so good in selling myself, so I need sponsors that will sell me.
right.
And
Well, you
and
sound like an alcoholic if you do it that way, but
yeah, that's what I figured. It's probably a different association in the US than in the Dutch context of sponsors. But okay, well, maybe that's another challenge that I need to take on one of these days. No, but so for me, what one of the things that I did was to include the YouTube links to the presentations that I've been doing on my resume, to make sure that people can at least see that I am very excited about new technologies. And I'm trying to, I also had to learn to shift from in-person meetings to online meetings and find my own way in the whole new sprue of new meetups and communities and virtual events. But I'm trying to find my own little way of making a presence or making a difference. So one of the things that I very recently did was in July, there was the virtual Azure Community Day, and I did a presentation on Azure automation and WVD as an example. And it mostly focused on Azure automation and Azure DevOps. And at the end of that presentation, I got a question. So have you looked at GitHub Actions? And I had to admit that I had not invested any time yet in GitHub Actions. But I did take that as a challenge. So I made sure for the next event, which was December 3rd, that I would enter a call for topics on GitHub Actions and challenge myself to make sure that I could basically show the same WVD automation that I previously did in Azure DevOps with GitHub Actions. And I am enjoying the fact that helps me to pick on new challenges and to challenge myself, not just technically, but also personally in growing, in feeling comfortable, in just doing the impromptu speeches, to be on podcasts like this, because I still have to battle some camera shyness in the whole process. And then at the same time, making it more fun to get to that next topic for my presentations. So now I have to check what quirky action there is available for GitHub and see if I can build a new presentation on that for March. So yeah, it keeps me busy in a fun way.
Yeah. Well, Pat wanted us to highlight your stuff on Nitro APIs for the win. That's Citrix Converge, right?
Yes, correct.
So we'll put that.
I had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah. So I'm going to challenge you to give us a bunch of videos to put in our show notes. You'll have to email those to me so I can put those out and make sure everybody has access to those as well. So fantastic stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really kind of one of those things where it's just like the main thing with things like this too is like the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Correct.
So that when we have technical glitches and everything is just freaking out, we just keep going.
Yeah. Well, and it sometimes helps to find a very safe group or club or stage to get those flight hours in. So one of the things that I did in the past, because I didn't feel so secure about my vocabulary, especially my I'm not going to say English, I'm going to say American vocabulary, because I do realize that I don't sound British at all, is that I joined a Toastmasters club. And I was very fortunately in the Netherlands that we even had an English Toastmasters club as well. In the area. So that helped me not just work on my American vocabulary, but also to feel more comfortable, or at least acknowledge how my body responds to everyone looking at me, and that the sweating is something that I can now ignore, so I can focus on the content of my message or my speech or my presentation. Instead of having to worry about whether or not I pick my nose while I'm doing a podcast, or making inappropriate behaviors maybe, or not focusing on wherever the camera is. So I had to learn, and I was very fortunate that at the beginning of this year, or at the beginning of the whole pandemic, that I had a virtual safe group to practice in by the MVP program not accepting my excuse that I had a very old video cam that would only show me in 5 pixels. So there was no use in turning it on. So eventually I had to, and well, maybe that's not for everyone, but I kind of cheated by making sure that I'm surrounded with all this cool technology, like additional studio lights, a better camera, a green screen in the back, so I don't worry about my stage and my presence, but I can just focus on the content or the message that I want to get across.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It's not for everybody. I encourage, I think DJ and I agree. Well, no, but I mean, I think people should try at least once to, put themselves
I thought
out
you meant all the equipment.
Oh gosh, no, you have no idea. The only thing I haven't bought is a green screen yet. And I'm pretty sure that's coming.
I think we used a green screen for me on episode 1. And I don't think we did it since. I just didn't. I just like the more, I just have so much about me that's back here on the video portion. It's like, just keep it there.
And I will admit, I do like showing my Red Wing stuff, just, and my little Deadpool. Whoop, there we go.
Well, for me, it was more practical because I'm sitting in what seems to be a nice office, but it actually was the main entrance of the house. So I had to make sure that my girlfriend wasn't barging in every time, or at least could use the exit door right behind the screen.
Right.
Until we finally had the front door of the house that was jammed, fixed and replaced, and now it's just perfectly fine. So now there's no excuse anymore for the green screen, except
but the green screens can be fun. I mean, when you're in a casual situation or something, or there's times where it can be really fun, and to throw something up back there. And
my inner nerd totally
who was it
agrees.
that does those elaborate ones, like him he was on camera, but then suddenly he walks in with a coffee cup, fills up the coffee, and it's those are brilliant.
Oh, I know, and I haven't mastered that just yet. But my inner geek is just so excited about this whole pandemic and having my own little home studio and just playing around and finding excuses to buy all these expensive, useless gimmicks.
Right.
Because I had
like the way you think. I
had this conversation only a couple of days ago where someone said, "Oh yeah, I heard about people buying this really expensive gadget that's basically just a clock. Why would you do that?" And I was going like, "Oh, you mean the La Metric? Well, basically, I have this white screen, and the time is in like a really tiny corner right down there. So for all my presentations, it's just perfect to keep track of time, and it actually shows you the weather too." And then she said, "Yeah, and I can buy just a simple clock from Walmart for like $10 and just have the same effect."
But it's not nearly as much fun.
Yes, right. Where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually I didn't pull the trigger on it. I was like, no, that's a little too much. But I almost bought the same system that they use on stages to tell you how much time you have left and that sort of thing. I almost bought one of those to have kind of just dead center right up here where my eye line is. I almost did that, but I haven't done it yet.
Yet.
Yet. Yeah.
You heard it, Jeff. Yet.
Christmas is coming. Hint, hint, wink, wink, wifey.
Oh, well, that's the other complaint my girlfriend has, that I already buy all the Christmas presents before she even has a chance to do so.
Hey, that's me in a nutshell. People ask me what I want for my birthday, and I'm like, just do something for someone. In fact, it's a little cheesy, but I had fun doing it. Every person that wished me a happy birthday on like Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, I sent them a little video that said, here's what you can do. You can actually go, get the book or buy it for somebody. Share this with your friend. That's what you can do for me. That's a good birthday gift for me. So,
that is awesome.
So, well, speaking of time, we're pretty much at the end, so we're going to get to our final thoughts segment. So, Esther, final thoughts about our episode today. What stands out for you, and what you'd like to say to close today?
Well, all I can say is thank you guys for giving me these little moments of fame on just being me and just sharing how I think important it is within this community to keep supporting each other and to also keep challenging each other. And as you said, praise in public, and I'll just scoff them in private. Just burn them to the ground, just private.
In private.
Scorched earth policy.
So yeah, I guess that's one of the things that I'm gonna take with me from this episode. So thank you just very much. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Absolutely. And Esther, I'm going to kick you back to the backstage. Hang out with us for a little bit, and we'll be back with you in a moment. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.
Hey,
awesome. Love it.
You figured it out. You gotta love it. Gotta love it. That's what makes these so much fun.
Right.
Doing the live stuff.
Fun. I ain't gonna do it anymore.
That's it. I'm done. We're done. It's out. Oh, I just had something in mind and then it lost it when you couldn't get her on the screen. It's yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. The Dutch, be wary in the stroopwafels. Be wary, but eat them. They're so good. That's my final thought.
Awesome, Jeff. Thanks for being with us today. Love it. And I can't get enough of these folks. They're just amazing. And so thank you so much for tuning in today. I know on the live we had some just weird issues going on, but hey, that's part of the adventure here with what we're doing. We're reaching all across the world on multiple streams, and things happen. So if you're listening after the fact, thank you for your patience and tuning in with us. And I hope you got something good out of today. Did want to put up that I've extended the bundle for my book, books, plural. I've got a thrive-it.com/book bundle, and you can get those. The screen might say that it's expired. Just click anyway. That's my little tip to you today. So go ahead and click anyway. And if you're viewing after that's expired completely at the end of the year, end of 2020, I'll put up something special for you down the road. But it's an opportunity for you to have some, lockdown reading, or just better yet, just further your career. So I definitely encourage you to check that out, thrive-it.com/book bundle, and get yourself some good knowledge, or buy it for someone else. It's all good. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's thrive-it.com/subme. That'll do a direct subscription to the YouTube channel. But if you don't like this, please don't subscribe. That just throws everything off. But if you do like this content, it's something that's really useful, we do want you to go ahead and subscribe so you get notifications about other things. And obviously, if it was something useful to you, go ahead and hit that like button and do the usual. I really get irritated when people say smash a button. It's like, don't smash a button. Be gentle. You need your computer to work. Don't smash anything. Just click the button gently, caress it, make it your friend. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week for another THRIVEcast.